When I bought a long-abandoned 150-year-old cabin mansion, I expected creaking floors and dust, not an HOA Karen screaming that it was her son's inheritance. What started as a renovation project turned into a legal and historical showdown that revealed family lies, property fraud, and the mansion's shocking secret past. The place looked like it had been forgotten by time itself. Nestled on 5 wooded acres at the edge of Hollow Creek, the 150-year-old cabin mansion leaned slightly, its porch draped in ivy, shutters hanging like tired eyes. To most, it was a ruin. To me, it was history waiting to breathe again. I'd been searching for a fixer-upper, something with soul. When the county listed the old McAllister mansion for auction, I bid without hesitation. 2 months later, the deed was in my hand and my truck was rumbling up the gravel drive. I stepped out, taking in the silence. No traffic, no city noise, just the whisper of trees. Then came the sound of heels clicking on pavement. "Excuse me?" I turned. A woman in her late 40s with stiff blonde curls and a pastel blazer stormed toward me holding a phone like a weapon. "I'm Karen Whitaker, president of the Hollow Creek HOA, she snapped. "You can't be here," I frowned. "Ma'am, I just bought this property." She looked me up and down like I'd claimed to own Buckingham Palace. "That's impossible. This house has been in the Whitaker family for generations. My great-grandfather built it. This is our inheritance, my son's specifically." I pulled the folded deed from my jacket pocket and handed it to her. She barely glanced before thrusting it back. "Fake," she said curtly. "The county made a mistake. You'll be hearing from our family attorney." Then, unbelievably, she marched past me up the porch steps and yanked on the front door, which I had just unlocked. "Ma'am!" I called. "That's trespassing." She spun around. "You're the trespasser. My family was supposed to inherit this land decades ago. The HOA will see to it that you vacate immediately." I watched her storm back down the steps, muttering about outsiders stealing family property. I should have known then. This wasn't going to be a normal renovation. Over the next week, I discovered the extent of the damage inside. The mansion was massive. 6 bedrooms, 2 fireplaces, a wraparound staircase, but neglect had left it half-rotted. Floorboards sagged, wallpaper peeled like old bark, and the roof leaked whenever the wind shifted. But even beneath the decay, I saw beauty, handcrafted beams, ornate carvings, even initials burned into the fireplace stone, JM 1874. As I worked, Karen's interference began. First, she sent inspection notices from the HOA claiming I was performing unauthorized restoration without community approval. Then she had contractors show up, insisting they were hired to resecure the estate. I sent them away, politely the first time, firmly the second. Then came the police. A deputy arrived one morning saying Karen had reported a man illegally occupying the Whitaker ancestral home. After a quick check of my deed and ID, the deputy sighed. "She's pulled this before," he muttered. "Ignore her. Legally, it's yours." But ignoring her wasn't so easy. Karen started parking her SUV at the end of my driveway, watching me with binoculars as I worked. At night, I'd catch glimpses of flashlights near the tree line, someone snooping around the old barn or the well. That's when I decided to dig deeper into why she thought this house was hers. Spent the next few weeks digging through public records, piecing together the mansion's past. The original owner, James McAllister, had built it in 1874 after the Civil War. The Whitaker family didn't even appear in county documents until 1923, when a relative married into the McAllister line. But here's where things got strange. In 1954, a property transfer document was signed by a H. Whitaker, except the signature didn't match any registered owner. It was fraudulent. The property had never legally belonged to the Whitakers. The county knew it too. The mansion had been tied up in probate for decades before finally reverting to the state, then auctioned off, and to me, I was holding the truth in my hands. When I confronted Karen, "She exploded! You don't understand!" she shrieked outside my gate. "My grandfather was promised this house." "By who?" I asked. "By God," she yelled. "This land belongs to our bloodline." Her son, a lanky 20-something with slick hair and sunglasses, stood beside her, smirking. "Mom, just call the board. We can fine him until he leaves." "Fine me for what?" I said, exasperated. "I'm not part of your HOA." Karen jabbed her finger toward the road. Every property in Hollow Creek falls under the association. No, Karen. My lot predates it by 70 years, she glared, shaking with rage. Then I'll have it condemned. She actually tried. A week later, 2 county inspectors arrived, saying they'd received complaints about unsafe conditions. When they saw the structural repairs I'd done, with permits, they rolled their eyes. Karen again? One asked. Yep, I said. Hang tight, he said. She's about to regret this. That afternoon, as I was stripping old wallpaper in the upstairs hall, I noticed something strange. A hollow thump behind the plaster. I tapped again. Hollow. I pried a section open, and inside was a small metal box wrapped in oilcloth. Inside it lay letters, brittle, yellowed, sealed with wax. They were from James McAllister himself, and one in particular stopped me cold. If this letter is found, know that the house was never to pass to the Whitakers. They deceived my widow after my death, taking what wasn't theirs. Let this be known to the rightful heir. There it was, historical proof of the family fraud Karen's ancestors committed. I photographed everything, called the county historian, and turned in the documents. Within days, a local paper ran a story. Historic Hollow Creek Mansion exposes century-old property fraud. Karen went ballistic. She came screaming up my driveway, camera crew from the HOA's Facebook page in tow. You think you're a hero? She shouted. You're defaming my family name. I'm just restoring the truth, I said calmly. And my house. You'll regret this, she hissed. The HOA will sue you. But the HOA board wasn't backing her anymore. The fraud scandal made her a liability. Within weeks, she was voted out as president, but Karen wasn't done yet. The day of reckoning came when Karen filed a desperate civil suit claiming ancestral ownership of my property. Her argument was laughable, but the hearing drew half the county's attention. The courtroom buzzed as she strutted in wearing pearls and confidence. I sat quietly beside my attorney, holding the box of McAllister letters. Your Honor, Karen began, this man illegally occupies land promised to the Whitaker family. He is desecrating our legacy. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you have a deed or legal claim? Karen smiled thinly. It's implied inheritance. The courtroom erupted in chuckles. Then my attorney stood, handing over the historic letters and the county's verification report. The judge read silently for a long moment before looking up. Mrs. Whitaker, he said sternly, these documents prove your family's claim was fraudulent, and that Mr. Walker here is the rightful owner. This case is dismissed, Karen's jaw dropped. But, furthermore, the judge continued, you're ordered to cease harassment and pay restitution for unlawful interference and defamation. Her son slammed his hand on the table. You can't do this to us. The judge banged the gavel. Court adjourned. Outside, cameras flashed. Local news had shown up, catching Karen's meltdown on film as she screamed about family rights, while reporters documented every word. That night, I sat on the restored porch of my mansion, the wooden beams glowing in lamplight. The house that had nearly fallen apart now stood proud again, floors refinished, windows glowing, the old JM 1874 carving shining above the hearth. I raised a glass to the portrait of James McAllister that now hung over the fireplace. Rest easy, old man, I murmured. Your home's in good hands now. The next morning, the HOA sign at the end of Hollow Creek Road was gone, dismantled quietly after the board dissolved amid scandal. Karen's family moved out weeks later, their legacy reduced to whispers. And the mansion? It became a landmark. The county recognized it as a protected heritage property, its history and truth preserved for good. Sometimes restoring an old house isn't about rebuilding wood and stone. It's about restoring honor, and nothing, not time, not lies, not even a furious HOA Karen, can take that away.